Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. I am lucky enough today to be joined by Coach Frank Carrozza from Lebanon Valley College. Welcome, Coach.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Well, uh, we'll just kind of jump right into it. Um, you guys are Division III there in PA, on the women's side. So when do you really start talking to players? You've just wrapped up your season, so when are you going into full gear recruiting mode, and are you looking at sophomores, juniors, seniors? What does that look like for you right now?
Yeah, sure. So I think probably every coach and every program is different. Kind of the way I've done it in the past and kind of the process that I like is obviously with Division III. Once a student athlete goes into ninth grade, you can kind of start evaluating and start exchanging some emails and phone calls and things like that. For me, I kind of wait until about that junior year where you really start getting that most amount of interest, where it starts to turn into a little bit of a serious interest side of things from the kids. So I'd say that's probably the important year in terms of touching base in the first contact from my side of things. Um, Most commitments I feel like that come, or at least what we try to do on our side, is push them for about like a October or November type of commitment. And usually that's their senior year. I think if you're going into like the December side of things, to me, I feel like it might be a little bit on the late side. So for the most part, we'll push that current year for like an October, November deadline. And then I turn it right around and start the new class right after that. So I try to kind of focus on one class at a time. I know a lot of people do different things where they do multiple classes. For me, I just kind of put all the eggs in one basket, really hone down on one class, hit it hard, get what we need to get, and then we turn it around into the next class. So that's kind of how we do it.
So that means you're kind of in the midst. Then we're talking on November 14th here. You're in the midst of getting those 23s locked and loaded, committed right now. So how hard is that during the season with limited
Yeah,
time, limited staff? Like how does that work for you guys?
oh, it certainly is. I think for me it was an interesting experience this year because I actually just came in as a new head coach into Lebanon Valley. So for me, I got hired in June, and during that period of when you were changing from one school to the other, I mean, you miss a lot of the showcases. It wasn't necessarily official at one school, and I wasn't official at the other school yet, so you kind of felt like you were in limbo. So for me, I'm playing a little bit of catch up. But yeah, definitely during the season, it is very hard to get out and actually see people play. You rely a lot more on video during your season because, I mean, you're basically strapped at your school 6 out of 7 days a week, whether it's practice or a game. Usually you get that just that one Sunday off and what you get during the week. So it's very hard to get out because a lot of people aren't playing on Sunday. So I mean, yeah, you fall back on your assistants quite a bit. You fall back on video quite a bit, but yeah, I'd say it's challenging. So you kind of rely a little bit more on the email and the phone call portion during your season. I feel like.
So you mentioned tournaments. Do you have kind of a list of places you got to make sure you get to each year that you're really hitting, that are your top choices to see players play at?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and again, it changes from school to school. So I think right now I'm trying to find that niche for the new school that I'm at. We're very heavy with players from Pennsylvania and just in general, people that are from Pennsylvania. About 80% attend our school. So for me, it's getting used to that change in so-called market. But yeah, I have a list of probably about 30 to 40 showcases or tournament events that we go to. I do try to do a couple high school games, but it's honestly very tough just from a time standpoint. They're in season when you're in season, and when you go to a tournament, you kind of maximize your time a little bit more. But yeah, I'd say there's about a good list of about 30 or 40 places I'd like to try to hit if I can.
What about camps? Do you guys I know you're new, but are you going to be running camps at Lebanon Valley? Do you work other camps to help find players as well?
Yeah, I think camps are huge. When I go and work another camp, I actually enjoy that more than trying to host it. I think sometimes when you host it, you get caught up in all the logistics and making sure that you're patching everything and making sure everything's running smoothly, where you kind of lose a little bit of touch with talking with players and being able to work with players. But I try to go work as many camps and ID clinics as possible. Great way to be able to work for a day with a player, get to know them a little bit and see a little bit further what you don't see on video and when they're on the field. So I would like to introduce an ID clinic to our place. I know they've had one in the past. I'm just kind of rearranging the timeline with it. But yeah, we try to do a couple camps throughout the summer. Maybe do an ID clinic in the late fall, in the winter time, and then maybe one in the summer. But yeah, I think they're very helpful.
Okay. Well, when you're evaluating a player, whether that's at a camp or a tournament or something, what's your kind of hierarchy of things you're looking for in a player on the field and off the field attributes?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot. When I first started, I think it was all about, probably like everybody, it's you're all about trying to find the best player possible. Everybody wants the Messi, the Ronaldo player coming in. And then I think what you start to realize over some years of experiences, the type of person really matters most. I mean, you can make players better. Players can get better also on their own, but I think in the end of the day, character has now been the biggest thing for a value for me. I don't want to feel like I'm their mom and dad away from school. I want to help them and guide them, but you don't want to feel like you have to babysit somebody, and vice versa. I mean, no player really wants you to have to feel like they're being babysat. So for me, it's, is that person trustworthy? Is that person going to do the right thing when coach isn't around and your professors and mom and dad aren't around? Are you going to when it's time to go? Is it time to go, or are you going to push your luck and stay longer? Things like that. I think just being responsible, being accountable. I know it's a work in progress. We've all been there when we were freshmen in colleges. We like to go out and explore a little bit, but I think if that person has a good sense of reality and just understands what's right, what's wrong, and maybe it's time to go home type of deal. I think those are the people that more stand out to me now, over the kicking the ball in the right direction. I mean, sure, that helps, but I want good people surrounding me. I want good people surrounding my players and my staff. That's probably the most important thing for me now.
Okay. And this is more of a technology almost question. You're gathering recruiting information. You guys have a, recruiting questionnaire on your website, and it looks like you guys use Recruit Spot. How helpful is that? How much do you look at what comes in off of that? Do you find players at all through those kind of online profile sites?
It's tough. A lot of those programs, they evaluate and grade players very, very differently. So I think one of the hardest things to do is when you're going through, because I know there's about 3 or 4 different places out there that really they give free profiles to players and they kind of give us access to see some videos. Really, that's the biggest value for me, is being able to find where their contact information is, who they play for, and then do you have a little sample of what you do. Other than that, I think it's tough because when you go in and you see some high school statistics and things like that, but it really doesn't give you a good background on who the person is and what they can do. So yeah, I mean, I think they're valuable, but I think it all depends on the amount of content that the player themselves actually uploads to the site is what brings the value, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, as a parent, one of the top questions that I always have, and that I think most parents have, is, oh gosh, how much is this going to cost me? So I'm not holding you to any hard numbers here, but can you just give me an overview of what the overall cost, what the financial aid packages kind of look like? Obviously, without athletic scholarships, what's the academic money? What other stuff's out there for your average student athlete coming into play?
Sure, sure. Again, I think every school's different, and I think that you hit it right on the head where a lot of people, it's easy to get the sticker shock when you first all of a sudden you pull up the website and you're like, this campus is beautiful. I've loved talking to the coach and the players. And then you pull up that piece that says how much you're going to play or how much you're going to pay. And then instant shock and panic kicks in a little bit. And funny enough, I actually just had this conversation with a recruit and her family not that long ago. I think the hardest thing is being able to actually get somebody you don't know to trust you in believing and saying that, okay, what you see as the price is just a starting point. Don't panic. It's probably the worst case scenario that, if you'd never got any type of financial aid whatsoever, yes, that's the end number. But almost everybody, if not everybody, receives some sort of financial aid at almost any college they go to. So for us, our sticker price, I believe it was around 42, 52. Within the last couple of years, it keeps kind of climbing just like everybody else. But the average player, or I should say the average person that comes to Lebanon Valley, is usually paying anywhere between like the 25 and 27,000 mark. With Division III, obviously you get merit money, money for academics and what you're earning, community-based awards. So I think those are the things that really come into play. Is if people look at, yes, private schools might pay a little bit more going there than you do, say, to a state school, but the amount of financial aid that comes out of Division III schools for the academic side is usually pretty healthy. And I think that's something that, before you run for the hills, take that stuff into consideration, see what the end number is. And usually it's a lot more manageable. I mean, people pride themselves, especially with us in private schools, is how do you play ball with schools that cost a lot less? And I think the way we kind of sell it is, with private schools, you look at the graduation rate and the job placement rate. I mean, those are the things that we say we're better at than the everyday school, and that's why you pay more. So I can only obviously boast and brag about our place, but so our place is the last 4 years we've been the best job placement school in the all state of Pennsylvania for 4 years in a row. So those are the type of things that you kind of sell to people is yes, you're going to pay more, but in the end of the day, we're saying you're going to get out in 4 years, not 4.5, not 5, and we're going to help get you a job when you get out. You're not going to get out, have to move back in with mom and dad. They don't want that. You don't want that. They're already measuring to put in the new closet or the new hot tub. They don't want you moving back in. So I think that's the big thing when we're trying to sell our private schools in Division threes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school. I'm sure there's some folks out there who haven't heard of Lebanon Valley. I mean, and
Okay.
but besides being nice and close to the chocolate mecca that is Hershey, give me some things you're new to the school. So what are some things you found to be really cool, really really great things about the school?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I've always enjoyed the hunt for a place that I could work at where you had that family feel. And I know a lot of places preach that and say you have that, but I think it is still very rare to be able to find that environment where the people you're working with truly do care for you, both as a worker and also as just as somebody that works and shares the same lifestyle as you. So that's something that's special. And I don't really think that that is everywhere as much as people want it to be. But just having that support and not just from the administration of the school, but your coworkers, you want to have that good relationship with professors, good relationship with administration, and then good relationship with your colleagues. It is tough to find that. I think it's a lifestyle now more than a hobby. We do this as this is what we love. We've put all of our time and investment into it, and you want to be able to find an environment that can kind of help nurture that feeling, your growth, and then what you're trying to do for the students that they allow you to work with. So, that's the biggest thing for me is the environment has support, the environment has potential and growth, and they see athletics as a priority. It doesn't have to be the top priority, but it's a priority, and it helps.
Yeah, for sure. Well, academics obviously is another big part of going to college. So, how do student athletes really balance that pull between academics and athletics, and what support systems does the school offer to help them in that journey?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean, it's for a lot of people, it's the first time they're away from home. You're starting to realize mom and dad aren't there to check up on you. Did you go to class? Did you do your homework? The teachers aren't going to give you that free pass. I mean, they get paid whether you go to school or not. So in the end of the day, if you don't want to be there very long, go do soccer, go hang out, and then you're going home pretty quick. So yeah, I think you have to really push, and there's a lot of different things out there. So for our school in general, like we have a tutoring center where players and the general population, if you're struggling and you don't have another outlet and say maybe professors' office hours aren't enough for you, you can go and sign up for a tutor and they'll be able to help you out in that major. In our program, we try to do that first with our players. We try to have a player go to another player. Hey, have you had this class? Have you had this professor? What do I need to know? What's the important pieces when I'm starting to study? So they can kind of help figure out their way of being able to do things. And then if that doesn't work, yeah, then I think you go to your professor, you go to the tutoring center. I think there's a lot of good resources in place, but yeah, I think it's with the difference for me with college and high school is if you're willing to go find the help, it's certainly there, but no one's going to chase after you to say, hey, do you need this? Whereas in high school, I feel like there's a little bit more of a system where it's an early alert. They find that you're having some trouble and they'll maybe steer you to the help versus in college, you have to go find that help. I mean, it's there, but you have to go find it. So I enjoy it. It's definitely there. Again, I think it's how responsible the kid wants to be.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, you kind of just wrapped up your season. Um, Can you give me a broad strokes overview of what it was like during the season in terms of a schedule for a player? When did they eat? When were classes? When was practice? What was kind of the game cadence and that kind of what can a new recruit coming in as a freshman expect in their first season?
Yeah. It was very different for me when I was changing from one school to the other. At the last place I was at, we practiced every day at nighttime from 8 to 10 at night. And the only reason I did that was it was only one turf field, 4 teams were sharing it. There wasn't a lot of time to train, and the only way you could get all of your players together happened to be at that time period. So that was tough at that situation. With the current situation, we have our own practice grass field. We have our own game field. We can basically practice at any point in time we want. Now, granted, we don't have lights on it, so it has to be during the day. But I really do my scheduling around my player scheduling. So we use the good old Google Forms. The players will go in and fill that out, and I can kind of summarize and see where the openings are, and we'll be able to pick our best time slot. So funny enough, this year, basically every day we were 4 to 6, and then our so-called late day was 4:30 to 6:30. So it wasn't too bad. But yeah, I mean, the kids do a great job of balancing things out. I'm never going to ask them to compromise their class schedules for practice. For games, I think in a lot of places in like ours, the student athletes automatically excused to go to a game, but we try to keep things healthy. You know, if we say we're leaving and playing on Wednesday, we try to send our kids to the professors on Monday and explain to them, say, you know, this class is important. What you do is important. You're the one getting me ready for my future. I am a student athlete. I do enjoy the athletic side of things. How can I balance both? And professors have been really good. I think if you approach it that way versus I just waltz into your classroom and say, hey, teach, yo, by the way, I appreciate it, love this class, but, you know, I won't be here on Wednesday, I got a game. I think you come off rubbing them the wrong direction a little bit there. I think you have to kind of nurture that a little bit better. So when we send them on Monday, we just explain, you know, I don't want to fall behind in class. What do I need to do? Can I sit in another class, or can I come to your office hours, or how would you like me to help balance these? Professors have been great with it. So typically for our week, Monday and Tuesdays are training days. Might be a heavier session on Monday, maybe a little bit bigger and tactical on Tuesday. Wednesday we played. Thursday really depended on the bodies of the players. If we were beat up, we would do a recovery session. If we weren't beat up, we would do another session similar to Monday, where maybe we got after a little bit more. Fridays, again, it was bigger and tactical. Saturday we played, and then Sunday was almost always our off day. So it worked out pretty well where we could taper stuff. But again, I think every season, every school, and every year is a little bit different. But we were lucky enough that that's kind of how we flowed this past fall.
Okay, makes sense. Um, well, let's talk a little bit more about the team and soccer side of things. So, is there a roster size that you're looking to hit? That's your ideal roster size each year?
I've actually floated on both sides of the spectrum with this. So when I was an assistant a couple years back, we had a roster of about 30 to like 36. And it was something where you didn't really like to make cuts because, you know, you had players and they each have different talents and different skills. But at the same point, I think realistically in a game, you get about 16, 17 deep in a game. And that's honestly, and that might be pushing it. So I think 30 is the ideal magic number for me. I think it's big enough that if injury hits or if sickness hits, like this time of the year, you get lovely flu or cold that season that runs through your team. If you have 30, it doesn't deplete your whole team. I did try a year where I was down to about 25, and I don't know if it was just a bizarre season or if it was just, you know, a warning sign for me not to go that low, but we had 3 goalkeepers. We go into a playoff game. 2 of them are sick, and my starter pokes their eye in the bushes getting the ball during the warmups, and now I got a field player in goal. So again, it was a bizarre situation, but I felt, okay, never again are we going to let bizarre, random things like that affect us. So for me, 30 is kind of the ideal number. I think it makes a competitive environment, but it gives you enough depth. You can avoid some weird situations and sickness.
Yeah, yeah, that's a weird one. Um, well, besides the number of players, what else, what does your staff size look like, and role does everybody play?
Yeah. This year was again new transition for me. So the last school I was at, I ended up having 2 assistants. So I had 2 female assistants. They were fantastic. One was more of my GA, and she was more of a full-time assistant where she really helped with the admin side. I mean, really anything they wanted to get involved with, I got them involved with. It's something where I feel like if you want to do this for a living, you know, why limit you to this one side of the game? So we were trying to give her experience with everything. The other assistant had a full-time job. She was a teacher outside of the school. She got there mainly for practices, so recruiting was tough, but she was somebody where her role really was player management. I mean, the girls absolutely loved her. She was a former D1 player, so she could talk the game. Didn't really have the want to be a head coach, but just enjoyed being involved in it. So I think, you know, again, there's a difference between talent and skill. And I think you find that person's talent and you let them run with it. And we've been fortunate enough, we all kind of break things up a little bit. So at my new place, I have one assistant, same thing. He's a full-time job. He's a screen printer. So I mainly only get him for practices. So it's tough, but the more and more help we get, we're bringing on some volunteers now. We have some help recruiting, some helps in the office, some help with special events. So I think it kind of depends on what you need, but yeah, they're all valuable to me. Hell, I mean, I would have 10 if I could.
Makes sense. Um, well, can you give me a little insight into your style of coaching, the team style of play, kind of what you're trying to do there on the field?
Sure. Again, with the transition being a new team, what I was starting to implement at my old school was positional play. And it's a methodology that kind of comes from a lot of the European countries. You see it a lot in the Spanish realm. So I'm a big fan of TOVO and APFC, which are Spanish oriented type of programming, and kind of branch off Johan Cruyff. And they really talk about how positioning, angles, distance, and timing really plays the part in the predictor and where the ball goes and where the player goes. It's really talking about exploiting space. So my style's changed a lot over the years as I've learned, I guess, more about coaching and more about soccer. In the beginning, it was, get the biggest, fastest, strongest kids, and we got to win games. And, you think that's the mindset you have to have. And then you start to realize what you like and what you want. I really enjoy the possessional side of soccer, the style of play a Barcelona plays, a Man City plays, where it's a build up through the lines. You're really controlling the other team with and without the ball. So that's kind of the approach we're trying. Now, obviously, we're not Man City, we're not Barcelona. It's not going to look like that. But we share those beliefs, those concepts, the methodology that we use. So that's kind of what we're in now. This was year one of implementing it with the new team. They did great with it, loved it. They were some smart kids and asked a lot of questions. So we'll keep rolling that way as long as we can keep putting things together.
Oh, that's good. Well, as we said, you wrapped up your season, so now we're kind of in that off-season time frame. Uh, can you just brief overview, walk me through what it's going to look like here in your first off season? What are players going to do between now and next fall?
Yep. So a lot of things going on. So again, it's crazy because it's kind of just running through doing this a little bit on my own since my assistant has a full-time job. So it's a tough balancing act, but we're getting ready right now. And it's funny, this is great timing because I'm going through the first off season. So we just ended maybe about 2-3 weeks ago. I try to just give the players some time to heal. I mean, from playing and coaching, like your body takes a beating after a season, and your academic schedule changes slightly, your time restraints change slightly. So for me, I'm trying to let them turn back into a normal everyday student where it's one less thing to balance. Their body's healing a little bit. When they come back from the Christmas break, which is usually about early January, then we'll pick back up with things. So we're lucky enough that we have a full-time strength and conditioning coach at our school. So they'll be in there probably 2-3 days a week with the strength coach. We have to be hands-off as coaches. So it's nice that it's a soccer service. It's soccer engaging and related, but it's not us all the time because I think the players also need a break from us probably as well. So it just gives them something that's different, that's going to help, that's maybe not the same as what they've had for the last 3 months. While they're doing that, I'm busy trying to plan their end of the season banquet. We have 7 seniors that we're trying to celebrate and send off into their next phase of their life. So we're trying to put stuff together to celebrate their achievements, the team achievements, kind of what we did this season. So that's the back end of what I'm doing while I'm trying to balance out the recruiting side too. So you kind of wear 3 different hats and you juggle while you're doing it. But it's a good time. I think to me, it's a job where it gives you that variety where I'm not sitting at a desk 9 to 5 all the time. That's what I need is a lot of little things all at the same time. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Well, I always like to end these kind of the same way. We've covered a whole bunch of different topics, but what didn't we cover? What else do you want to let us know, whether that's about the school, about the soccer side, about recruiting, college soccer in general? Just kind of leave you the last word.
Yeah, cool. To me, I think the one thing I'll shed light on, or the one thing I like to go into, is on the recruiting side of things. And it's more of guidance, I guess, for student athletes. But at the same point, I'm not trying to tell them what to do because it's their search. We've already been there and done that. Look for the unique things in programs. I think a lot of people put the value and the weight on what was the team's record, how many seniors are they graduating, is it a good team chemistry type of feel? But I think the things that go overlooked are what's the environment and what's type of what are people trying to do on staff there that are really cultivating the long-term future, long-term success. So something we pride ourselves on is we've created a leadership program that we're trying to implement. Yes, the leadership topics, things like confidence, composure, leading yourself before you lead others, and kind of how that all works. And a lot of it we try to tie into soccer lessons, but also how it ties back into life lessons too. That's to me something not only that makes us unique and different from everybody else, but it's just something that I think is important, because there's a lot of leadership manuals out there for people that are business oriented, or just kind of different avenues, but there's not many sports leadership avenues out there. So that's just something that I enjoyed, something I push people to go find, is what outside of soccer and the academics that you have in common, what else does the school have? What are you excited about? So that, for me, I feel like is something that could be different. We try to grow that type of sense of environment. Yeah, but I think that's it, is see what else is unique and new. And that's all I can say is look for those extras.
I love that. That's you know what? I've done a bunch of these interviews, and I can say I like having a unique answer, because that's one that we haven't heard, and there's some really good advice. Love it. Well, Coach,
Appreciate it.
thank you so much. Congrats on your first season, and good luck in shaping
Thanks.
it into the way you want it for the coming season. We'll keep an eye on you, and if you end up at the United Soccer Coaches Convention here coming up in Philly, swing by and say hi to me at the Discover College soccer table. All right.
Definitely. I appreciate your time, Matt. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. You don't want to miss the 2023 United Soccer Coaches Convention in Philadelphia from January 11th to the 15th. This convention is the largest gathering of soccer coaches, administrators, and fans in the world. Only at the convention can you attend sessions crafted with your coaching level and desired topics in mind. Presented by world-class educators, our collection of over 200 lecture sessions and field demonstrations will offer every coach something to bring back to their own training sessions. Come learn from Amanda Vandervoort, president of the USL Super League, Anthony Flores, youth technical director of the Philadelphia Union, Becky Burley and Brett Ledbetter of What Drives Winning, Laura Harvey, head coach of OL Reign FC, and Dan Abraham, sports psychologist. More presenters will be announced in the months leading up to the convention. Visit www.unitedsoccercoachesconvention.org to register before the next price increase.